Hey, what's up everybody? Gabe here, and I'm on my way back from Ottawa. I am riding a 2023 CRF300L Rally from Honda, and this is my new Dualsport. For those of you who don't follow the channel, just maybe click on this because you're interested in the CRF300L Rally. I had a CRF300L before this, which is a pretty different kind of bike. It's a motocross derived Dualsport, you know, pretty different experience overall. And I had that, and I went on to do the MABDR, the Mid-Atlantic Backcountry Discovery Route, with it last year. And doing that ride really changed my ideas and priorities about what I wanted out of a Dualsport and what kind of experience I wanted. So this year I decided to sell it, and I was looking for a used one, and I could not find a used one anywhere near me. So I did find a new one, which apparently is pretty rare, so I thought that was pretty sweet, and I scooped it up. So yeah, I paid a little more because it was new, which sucks, but hey, it's new. I know it hasn't been abused because, well, except for what I did to it, because, you know, you want to go buy, dude, or do you want to just follow me? Okay, cool. That annoys me when people follow you close but they don't pass you when they have a chance. But I've noticed that's like pretty common here in Ontario. In Quebec, this guy would have flew past me and given me the bird already. Oh well. So yeah, like I said, I'm coming back from Ottawa. I am doing the break-in mileage. I'm at 191 on this trip, but I'm at about 340 or 50 on the bike itself, on the odometer. So you know, it's still pretty new. I did not get a chance to do a first ride video because it was pouring down rain when I bought this thing. Just absolutely terrible weather that day, and that was the day I could go get it, that I had time and that the dealer was ready and everything. So I had to just kind of suck it up and ride home in the rain. It wasn't that far, it was maybe 30 or 40 minutes, but yeah, it definitely wasn't like the most fun ride. And I didn't film it because, well, one, that would have been too distracting, and two, my camera's not 100% waterproof. Speaking of, it is quite cloudy today, so if it does start to come down, I will have to take all this crap off because, yeah, I don't want to ruin my camera. So, that said, let's talk a little bit more about this actual bike and not too much about the 450. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end, but really, I want to focus on this bike. This video is about the 300L Rally, and I'll talk, like I said, about the 450 and why I chose this instead at the end, and also why I chose this maybe instead of some other Dualsports on the market. This bike's nice to ride is the first thing that comes to mind, and some of that is because of its faults, frankly, but if you're just cruising down a road like this, it is nice. If you're riding in a city, I was in Ottawa before, you know, I live in the suburbs of Montreal, I've ridden it to work once already. It's a nice bike for those conditions. And by that I mean it's pleasant. Like, everything is smooth, everything is easy. It doesn't jostle you about too much. The suspension is comedically soft. If you know anything about this bike, you know that. The suspension it's so soft that it's a joke. I don't understand. It feels like somebody made a math error when they were calculating the spring rates for the stock bike. But the upside to that is that until you hit really nasty stuff, just potholes and scarred up streets, like, it absorbs all of it, and it's very plush. It's a little bouncy, you know. It's a bit like riding in an old bouncy car where it's comfortable, but, you know, you move around a bit, but you don't eat a hit with your spine or your tailbone or something like that. You just kind of bounce along. So it's pleasant. The power delivery is smooth. It's a single cylinder, but you can tell it's derived from a CBR300 because it's surprisingly not buzzy, and it's very smooth. Now, I say it's not buzzy. One big point is that I find it gets very buzzy in the seat right around 8,000 RPM. But below that, it's pretty nice. And you wouldn't know that you're riding a single. It feels more like a twin. I don't get anything through my feet at all. It does have rubber damped foot pegs. I don't know if I'll leave them like that or if I'll just take the rubber out to make them grippier off-road. Maybe they're the kind where if you put enough weight on them, they kind of squish down and let the metal grab your boots. That's the ideal mix in my mind, but we'll see. The day I ride them in slippery mud and the rubber gets in my way, I'll pull them out at that point, and that'll be that. But for the moment, I'll leave them in because they don't hurt. The bar stock had a bunch of weights in them too, and bar ends, but I put these Chirby's grips on, So I removed those weights, and I will say it was really annoying to do. Those weights were really, like, the way they're in there is annoying. It's hard to remove. I had to take a lot of crap off. It was annoying. It's done, but it was annoying. But even without them, I still don't have a lot of vibe in the bars. Now, I do have these hand grips that are kind of heavy, that act like the bar end now, and they do have an internal piece, but it's not nearly as heavy as the internal piece the stock weight was. So even with that gone, it's still not super vibey. So I'm going to go up to 8K. Yeah, I definitely, here, 8,500, 9,000, you start to feel it a little. It's not the end of the world, but like I wouldn't want to cruise for hours like that. Now, I don't know exactly what the top speed is, but it isn't going to be that much more than maybe 120 kilometers an hour. And I mean that for real. It'll tell you it's doing like 130, but I don't think that's true. Because, okay, I'm going to do, this is the GPS. This is the real speed, 100, and see I'm at like 108 down here. So there's a pretty big difference there. It's like an 8% difference. So yeah, it's optimistic, the speedometer, especially, and the faster you go, the more like true that becomes. So yeah, you definitely need to be careful about that. So if you're getting passed a lot and you're like, oh, I'm doing 110, why am I being passed? Well, it's because you're not doing 110. So power-wise, you know, it's nothing to write home about. But that said, it's fine for this kind of cruising and stuff. You could go on the highway, stay in the right lane, and, you know, tuck in and just suck it up for a couple kilometers here and there. It won't kill you, but it won't be fun. On this kind of speed is probably about as fast as I would really want to go with this bike. More than this, it's just the engine's working really hard for nothing. But the overdrive is pretty good, because actually I'm doing 105 kilometers an hour at 6,500 RPM, so it's not that bad, all things considered. So what else can we talk about? We talked about the suspension bounciness already. We talked about the power. The seat. The seat is surprisingly good for a stock Dualsport seat. It's not incredible, but it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And I am going to do a very long trip this fall, and I intend to do it on the stock seat to see if I really need a seat concept or not. Maybe I get away with the stock seat. I quite like how it looks too, so I'm hoping I can keep it. And also $400 to put in my pocket if I don't buy a seat concepts. Maybe towards, you know, fixing the bouncy suspension or something instead, for example. What else can we say? The feel is quite good. Like the turning is surprisingly light, like the steering, especially at low speed when you're actually steering with the bar and not just leaning over. It's a lot lighter than a lot of other bike steering I've used. So, you know, in a parking lot or just in traffic or whatever in the city, when you're not going fast enough to actually kind of lean the bike over, like here, I'm going to lean the bike over to make this turn. I'm not really turning the steering at all. I'm just using my weight. You know, maybe a little counter steer at the beginning, but barely pushing on it. Whereas when you're in the city, you're actually going to turn the bar, right? So it's very light. It's very easy to turn, which is kind of nice. Just something I noticed. I thought it's not really just a Dualsport thing, because the 450 wasn't easy like that. The DRZ I used to have before wasn't easy like that. So yeah, it's definitely a factor with this bike. What else? Oh, just a note, if you intend on installing these at Sherby's handguards like I did, these stock levers don't fit. They push up against the, so either you chop off the end of the stock lever or you replace them. I got these sweet anodized Zeta ones that like fold back like this and are fully adjustable. Like honestly, they're pretty Gucci for this bike. I never buy levers. I always just live with the stock ones. But these are really nice, honestly. Like, it was expensive, but I don't really regret it. It's a very like luxury feel when you use them. They're like 3-finger ones, although I mostly just use 2 fingers. But yeah, they're pretty cool. What else can we say about the 300L? The standing is all right, but definitely the bar could be maybe a little higher. My arms are pretty stretched out, even when I'm like putting my knees down and all that. It's workable. I think I could work it. I'd have to practice a little to get used to the feeling, but it's not bad. The tank's a little wider than your average Dualsport. It has more of that street bike feel, which actually I really don't mind because there's more to grip with your knees. I might get some tank pads or something, but otherwise, I do quite like that. That makes me think of something I don't like about this bike. The plastics. I like how they look, but they feel like sport bike fairings. They don't feel like dirt bike plastic, which means they're going to crack pretty easily, I think. I'm worried about that. And that's led me to buying something that I did not think I would get for this bike, which is the crash bars. I don't have them yet, but I've ordered them. That's a lot of weight, and there's also some stories on the internet about how those crash bars potentially could bend the tower up here because there's nowhere good for them to clip in somewhere. I don't know all the details, but definitely there's some concern there. But what ultimately pushed me over the edge is that I watched a lot of Itchy Boots videos, and she dropped this bike with those guards on like 1 billion times. Her fairings are fine, and her tower doesn't seem like it's been bent. So I think real world application to me beats out ADV rider theory crafting. Not that those guys are wrong necessarily, just that at least in practice I've watched somebody drop this thing like 100 times and it seems fine. So, and I'm not worried about a higher speed crash here. I'm really worried about oh crap, I stalled it over a rock and tipped it over like I did on the MABDR or something like that. So, you know, I got these on to protect my super fancy levers, and I'm gonna have the bars to protect my fairings, and I think I'll be all right. I do have you can't see it from where I'm sitting, but I have Flatland Racing metal skid plate. That's another thing that on the 450 I didn't hate the built-in plastic one, but on this bike I didn't like it so much. So the Flatland one, I really like how it has these bits that go over the frame. It just feels better, and it wasn't super expensive, and it's not super heavy, so I thought I'd go with it. Just a little extra protection on the bottom there. So yeah, that about sums it up. This is a nice bike to ride. It feels a bit like that 300R, or 300 CBR 300. I don't know how with the super soft suspension it'll feel on really technical off-road, to be honest. It's a little worrying, but we'll see. And the suspension is upgradable, like I mentioned. So for the price of this bike brand new and the full suspension upgrade, forks and shock, assuming I do the work myself, which I will, it's still cheaper than a used 450 RL. So it's okay if I have to upgrade the suspension. What I probably won't be doing, at least anytime soon, is a pipe, a tune, airbox mods, trying to eke out another 4 or 5 horsepower, you know, that kind of thing, 3 or 4, really 3 horsepower, that kind of thing. Like, my concern, I bet the bike feels better because it's more power everywhere in the range, even if it's not a whole lot more peak power. But my concern is that it'll affect reliability, it'll make too much noise, it'll get hot at the wrong time, or what, yeah, I don't know. It seems like not worth it. And you have to get cams if you really want to go and get advantage of it to make it worth doing. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it stock for power, at least for now. Maybe in 2 years I'll change my mind, but the first upgrade, if I'm going to do a big upgrade, will be the suspension. I'm going to do my trip with the stock suspension. I really want to see how bad it is. Is it really that bad, you know? If it is, then that's what I'll be doing over the winter, is the stock suspension upgrade. To the almost certainly the Rally Raid. They're in the UK. I like their kit. I like their instructions. It has what I want. I still will probably take I will still probably slightly underspring the bike. Like, I'll take a spring that's a little lighter than I need strictly, because I like the comfort, and I don't mind if it's a little soft, you know. Or I'll take it for my weight, but when I have luggage on it, it'll be a little soft for the luggage. I don't mind that, you know. I'll probably, like I said, underspring it a little if I do that, because I like the comfort aspect of this bike. I wouldn't want to ruin it. But I do want it to handle okay off-road, so yeah. So yeah, I think that covers it now. I think I've talked enough about the 300L Rally, and let's talk about why this one and why not another bike. I didn't want the 450RL anymore for two major reasons. One major reason, one minor reason actually. The major reason is the maintenance interval didn't suit my post BDR, what I wanted post BDR to do with motorcycles. I want to ride longer distance on, you know, off-road style rides like the BDR. I want to do more of that, and the majority of those rides are on the West Coast. I want to get to the West Coast. Now, I would like at least once to ride out to the West Coast. Maybe at some point I will get a small pickup truck like an old Ford Ranger and stick the bike in the back of the pickup truck, and that is how I will get to the West Coast, because, you know, fair enough, it's a long ride. But at least once I want to ride out there and ride back. And the 450RL is just not the bike for that with its maintenance intervals. It's not just oil changes with those kind of distances. You know, it's valve checks, it's other stuff like that. It's big stuff. So I don't really want to be in that position, having to do that. You know, I'd much rather have a bike where that's not a concern, like this one with its 12,000 kilometer service intervals. That's way easier. You know, the more minor reason is that the 450RL was clearly meant for like wide open road racing, like hammering the throttle on open deserts and whoops and all that, and like honestly that's not my riding at all. Like I was like putting along the MABDR. I don't think I went much faster than like 75 kilometers an hour on the gravel sections ever. That bike is really fast and really meant for that. I wanted to like slowly tiptoe up rocky hills and stuff, and it was like stall because like I wasn't going fast enough for it. That bike is more aggressive than I am. On the road, I quite liked it because I can be a pretty aggressive on the road rider. But off-road, I'm just not at this point in my life. I'm just quite a beginner. I'm quite slow. I'm mostly interested in riding stuff that isn't even that technical. That, you know, you just kind of putt along these like forest roads and stuff with gravel. And so I think that bike was a bad match for that style of riding. The one and only tip over I had on the MABDR was because I stalled it, and I stalled it because I was going too slow and the flywheel's light and I was still rolling, but it wasn't quite enough, and if I'd gone faster it would have never happened. This bike wouldn't have stalled in that situation. I wouldn't have tipped over, to give you an example. So yeah, I think it just wasn't a great fit. If you want to do, if your priority shifted to long distance riding and you're just not that fast or technical off-road, this makes more sense. And on-road, while it's not as powerful or sporty, it's certainly a lot more comfortable because the engine is a lot smoother and the clutch pull is like no effort. And it has ABS, even though for 99% of the situations that you'll be in, you won't need it on a bike like this with a single disc. It's reassuring that it's there for rainy days or whatever. So yeah, I think this is a better choice. Now, why not another Dualsport, the KLX300, the normal CRF300L, or another DRZ400? I like all those bikes. I picked this one because it already had the big gas tank. It already has the nav tower. It has some wind protection elements. It is a bit more out of the box, an adventure bike, compared to those other bikes, which are much more like pure Dualsport bikes. And to me, that means less stuff to do to turn it into an adventure bike. Sure, I put protection on it and Gucci levers, and I'll be putting a rear rack on it for my luggage when that gets here. But otherwise, I didn't change anything, right? I'm using the stock tank, the stock seat, the stock nav setup. All that stuff just works out of the box on this bike, which is really cool. All those other bikes, you know, they weren't really set up out of the box. There's also the KTM 390 Adventure or the Versys X300. They're both a lot heavier, and I think the Versys X, I don't remember if they even wear full-on Dualsport tire sizes. They might. I think they do now, actually. It's true, because the KTM now has spoked wheels instead of mags, So yeah, you lose the ability to plug it with a plug, but you could use real Dualsport tires, which there are a lot more of out there. Oh, I think I'm finally going to be faster than somebody. Look at this three-wheeler. I'm going to pass something. I've never come close. I usually move over for other bikes. So yeah, those little adventure bikes are cool, but I think they sacrifice a little too much off-road for me. And the other bikes are a little too off-road oriented, and I would have had to do a lot of mods to make them a little better on-road. So this is a bit the Goldilocks if you're willing to live with a bouncy suspension that you either live with or upgrade for a lot of money, and a low amount of power that, you know, that's what it is. The KTM is more power, right? Like, I love that engine too. I rode it on my buddy's VidPillin, but it's got reliability issues, and I'd just rather not deal with that, frankly. That engine has been a problem since the RC390 came to Canada in 2014. I don't think they've ever fully addressed it. So, yeah. Okay, I think that sums it up. So, I will be finishing the break-in on this bike. I am now at, let's check, 390 kilometers. And if we go back to trip A, this is not bad. It's a 12.5 liter tank. I've used 7.5 liters of it so far, and I've done 220 or just 219 and a half kilometers. So I should still have, let's see, let's do some quick maths. 2.5 plus 2.4. So I should have 4.9 liters left, which, man, I should easily go over 300. So not bad at all. So I'm gonna see when I get to a gas station. I don't want to run it totally empty because I don't have any spare gas with me, because I wasn't really expecting to do a super long ride today. But I want to get it close so that I can get an idea for that. But I really love this feature. More cars, my car doesn't even do this, and bikes should do this. Don't just show me my average per 100 or whatever, my MPG. Show me how much I've actually used. I've actually used 7.6 liters, right? That is awesome. My actual liters per 100 is 3.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which makes sense at 221. So there you have it. This is my new bike, a CRF300L Rally. This is what I'll be doing my North Ontario BDR-like ride, and then next year the Northeast BDR, it will be on this. I like it so far. After 300 some kilometers, I've had a good time. So yeah, oh, it's starting to rain and getting dropped. So I'm gonna pull over, put my camera crap away, and that'll be that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a good day. Peace.